You know it when you hear it, and you know it when you hear it. You know it, and you know it when you hear it, and you know it when you hear it, and you know it, when you hear it, and you know it when you hear it. That I'm flowing when you hear it. I'm the realest and a realist, so I'm cautious, but I'm fearless. I push the Tesla down the PCH, nigga. No boo in Malibu, ain't even clean my plate, nigga. Since last you heard from me, I've been in Texas and I doubled the necklace. Pockets fatter than precious. I've been in a jam of 3. I've been in Houston where if I slam a jam of tees, I've been at the Alamo, handle like I'm Alimo. I've been outsourced to every outpost. I'm talking Brownsville, Southmost, to who showed out mo. Yeah, and who showed out mo. Yeah. So let's start that show. Yeah, let's start that show. And you know it.
Ladies and gents, it's your boy Shadwick. This is episode 11 of And You Know It. My name is Shadwick, I am your host. I got Raheem here with me. We got a brand new video staff. You can now check this show out, youtube.com/AndYouKnowItPod. We are live, we are available. And we got a lot to get to today, man. We got a lot to get to. I have insight and analysis on the Jonathan Major situation. We're going to find out if TikTok is going to be banned in America. And we dare to ask, is Ja Morant okay? And much, much more. But let's start here.
Trump indictment watch.
Raheem, former polarizer-in-chief Donald Trump has officially been arraigned, and he's pled not guilty to 34 counts of falsifying business records. So this is in relation to hush money payments made to former adult film star Stormy Daniels. Raheem, I know she is one of your faves, but it does beg the question, can you really be a former adult film star? You know, because the problem with porn is, well, it's recorded, so it doesn't ever really go away. Someone can just wind you up and there you go, doing your thing yet again. So, Negro District Attorney, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg has officially rewound the clock of the national consciousness to January 2021. And so what I mean, Raheem, is this. We're now back in Trump world. We're now back in Trump orbit. Live coverage of his speeches on CNN.
And I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen.
Reporters whispering about his whereabouts, micro-analysis of one person. This is exactly what Donald Trump thrives off of. So here he is in yet another public feud. So if you thought he had a lot to say about Rosie O'Donnell, well, here we go again.
Well, Rosie O'Donnell's disgusting. I mean, both inside and out. You take a look at her, she's a slob. She talks like a truck driver. Rosie attacked me personally because I was very happy when her talk show failed. The other thing that failed, and this was a real monster, and everybody was suing her, was her magazine. Her magazine called Rosie was a total disaster.
So, Raheem, I'm not sure how much of the coverage you've actually been watching, but the word unprecedented has, it's become quite trite in light of this, really just during Donald Trump's entire run as a political figure in this country. Everything's been unprecedented. Everything this guy has done has not happened before. This individual has never occurred in American politics before. And so, that being said, what I would say to Negro Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is the following. You better get him. You better get him, because if you don't, he only becomes stronger. If you don't get him this time, after the Mueller investigation, after not one, 2 impeachments in a 4-year span, at that point, he would have officially morphed into Teflon Don. The Teflon Don moniker will fit at that point. You can't get this man. So if you're going to bring charges against him, the first time that a former president has ever faced charges in the United States of America, if you're going to be ballsy enough to be the first person to bring those charges, you better get him. And by the way, Raheem, Negro District Attorney as a moniker. The reason I'm referring to Alvin Bragg, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, as Negro District Attorney is, well, in this country, that context actually does matter. Listen, Raheem, black people in American politics have historically been used as, well, pawns, I suppose is the apropos term. Pawns to further a larger agenda. Listen, Negro politicians trade group interests for personal interests all the time. Knowingly, I might add. And that's on both sides of the aisle. It's not a Democrat or a Republican thing, because you have, look, out of South Carolina, you have Negro meat shield, Senator Tim Scott.
Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country.
Got Barack Obama himself, and Bragg is a Democrat. So, when I hear a black DA indicts Trump, and then I remember it's another black prosecutor down in Georgia, but, somehow the feds won't touch this. It just sounds like the Democrats have issued a frontline order to a couple of Negro infantrymen. So Negro DA is indeed relevant, Raheem. So Alvin Bragg, he brings 34 felony counts of falsifying business records against the former president. And, so the way you get to 34 counts is Donald Trump had to pay back his fixer, his Olivia Pope, Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen, by the way, has also already pled guilty to some version of this crime, and he pled guilty to also lying in front of federal prosecutors. But he pled guilty to this crime essentially. So Stormy Daniels was paid $130,000 and had to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. $130,000 is what it cost to buy her silence. In paying back, in reimbursing his fixer, because mind you, Michael Cohen apparently took out a home equity line of credit to make this whole thing happen, to facilitate the $130,000 payment. But in paying that back, Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, decided that he would write several smaller checks that I suppose would be off of the radar, and he would, write in his ledger that they were, of course, he's not going to write, porn star payments or hush money in the ledger. So he wrote something else, and there is. Well, let's start here, Raheem, or let's kind of continue here. I've been watching CNN. I've been watching Fox News. I've been watching One America Network. I've been trying to soak up as much coverage of this as I can. And here's what I'm here to report. Although I am not a legal expert, I have not heard or seen one legal expert who feels that this is a strong case. I haven't heard anyone say this is a slam dunk case or that he's got the former president dead to rights. So Alvin Bragg brings a rather nebulous financial case against the former president. Republicans are calling this a politically motivated prosecution. They are slamming Alvin Bragg for targeting the former president for political reasons. And you know what? They're making a strong case, Raheem. The Republican Party is making a strong case because, listen, this is not a matter of law. It's just not a matter of law. It's a matter of perception, and it does not stand to reason that the investigation, yet alone the indictment of the most famous or most infamous or most prominent politician of this century is somehow apolitical. That does not stand to reason, Raheem, especially, again, when we're talking about, listen, the Mueller investigation. So we're talking about investigating Trump's ties to Russia, and then, 2 impeachments, the Ukraine phone call, and then impeaching him after January 6th. And then, you're talking about the Georgia tapes and the classified documents found in Mar-a-Lago, or, something else related to January 6th, or any of the many crimes this man has committed in broad daylight. When you combine all of those things, he can make a strong case that he is indeed the victim of a political witch hunt. So if this case does not succeed, if it gets tossed out by a judge, or if a jury doesn't convict him, any further prosecution can credibly be looked at as, a political figure being targeted by the law. Especially if the law is controlled by his rivals. Listen, Raheem, the precedent that has been set, we're talking about unprecedented, but going forward, the precedent that has been set, I just believe the Democrats will one day rue the day that they allowed Alvin Bragg to indict a former president. And particularly with 34 for lack of a better term, trumped up counts of some sort of, nebulous financial crime. It is my belief, Raheem, and I really want you to pay attention to this. It is my belief that Alvin Bragg, Negro DA Alvin Bragg, has forced the hand of the Republican Party. Their most recent, just follow me here for a second. So their most recent, I'm talking about the Republicans, their most recent standard bearer cannot be paraded in a courtroom without making the Democrats feel that same pain. Just think about, in general, think about the vindictive nature of parentheses R politics. The Republican Party platform in recent years, Raheem, it's been about two things. It's been about reactionary vengeance at the state level. So, you can see either, see Wheelchair Greg rolling around the State House in Austin and all of the critical race theory and all the sort of phony bills that get passed in the name of protecting society. And see Puddin' Love and Ron DeSantis, and we'll get into him a little bit later. But at the federal level, Raheem, it's just been Team Trump. That's been the Republican Party platform. And in 2020, literally at the Republican convention, the party platform was a picture of Donald Trump. So you really think these folks are going to let this one slide? You heard me, boy. You think they're going to let this one ride? Huh? So allow me to make a prediction of sorts. And I got to give my dad some credit on this. He put this in my ear for the first time. When Joe Biden eventually leaves office, whether in 2025 or 2029, if that octogenarian is still alive and viable, a Republican Justice Department is going to indict Joe Biden for something related to Hunter Biden's laptop. The boogeyman, Hunter Biden's laptop, because Hunter Biden's dirty. We can all kind of see that, and we can all see that there was some sort of a cover-up to sort of downplay the nature of the content found on Hunter Biden's laptop. At one point, it was looked at as a little bit of a conspiracy theory, but it appears that there is some credibility to some improprieties from Joe Biden's son. And he's going to be indicted for that at some point. And then we will have officially become a country that prosecutes political rivals. We are now Russia. We are now Venezuela. Listen, Raheem, this is so serious to me. This has the potential. I don't want to chicken little this too much, but it has the potential to represent the fall of the American experiment as we know it. Now we have to hope for the grand old party to take the high road and to go full Michelle Obama. This is truly frightening, and you know it. But Raheem, before we leave this one, I really want to play some sound of Donald Trump, because after he was indicted, he flew back to Florida, flew back to Palm Beach, to Mar-a-Lago, his country club, and he had some words. It was his first words after indictment. And listen, I can understand why gun sales in this country are up as much as they are. Because this man would love a war. He would love a civil war in his name. I mean, you can just see it. And Raheem, do you have the sound that kind of explains how I reached this conclusion?
Our justice system has become lawless. They're using it now, in addition to everything else, to win elections. Apparently, they're not looking at me through the view of the Non-Criminal Presidential Records Act. They came up with a new one. This is a new one. And they're looking at me through the Espionage Act. Think of that. How does that sound? Of 1917, where the penalty is death.
Trump said they're trying to give him the death penalty, Raheem. He said they want to put the Donald in Old Sparky. So I looked it up, and in fact, the penalty for the Espionage Act can include capital punishment. I'm not saying that's what the Democrats are trying to do. I hadn't heard that before Trump brought it up.
Penalty is death.
He can make the case that these people are unhinged. And now I want to be very clear on my stance on Donald Trump. He definitely did it. He did a whole bunch of things that we've all seen in public. But the question is not whether or not he did it. I think we can all agree that he has committed several crimes, as I've mentioned before, in broad daylight. The question is whether or not as a nation, as a society, we want to prosecute people for political crimes, right? Because again, that slope is so slippery. But when you're making it life and death, when it becomes now it's a war, right? So this is why Donald Trump was able to raise $10 million since the indictment was announced. This is the reason why he's positioning it like it's a war, and the Democrats are giving him all the fuel he needs, and you know it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is your governor speaking.
I said, what in the world is up with Ron DeSantis?
Anybody know what's up with that guy? What's up with that guy? Everybody now. Hey, everybody.
In related news, Ron DeSantis, a.k.a. Diet Trump. Diet Trump is losing ground in the polls, Raheem. So in the wake of Donald Trump's indictment, Trump has widened his lead versus DeSantis. So now in the first polling after the indictment, Trump now leads 57% to 31%, which says a lot about the Republican voter base, but that's another story for another day. But look, man, part of that is definitely due to the free press providing a week's worth of free press to Donald Trump. It's been a Trump infomercial on cable news this entire past week, but the cultural warrior, Ron DeSantis, he's also been on a book tour in support of his personal narrative propaganda project. So the other day, he appeared on Piers Morgan Tonight, and Raheem, this guy cannot beat Trump. He can't do it, Raheem. And not even just because Trump has street cred now. The dirty secret is he has a truly awkward personality. I mean, the guy is weird, man. I mean, it's not just that he has, kind of like just a cringy delivery and just an off-putting vocal tone, but according to reports, he was seen eating chocolate pudding without a spoon. Apparently, he was using 3 of his fingers as a spoon, or instead of a spoon. He was using 3 of his fingers as a scoop, Raheem. I mean, what in the I don't need to wash my legs is that? Like, what are we talking about, Raheem? Do you have the sound of the denial from Diet Trump?
I was asking about your fingers because of this, scandal which broke last week, that you apparently were eating chocolate pudding with 3 fingers.
Now, was that anonymous sources or something?
It was a very serious allegation. In fact, I congratulated the journalist who broke it on the new Watergate. But I have to put it to you, Governor, have you ever eaten a chocolate pudding with 3 fingers?
I don't remember ever doing that. I'm telling you, maybe when I was a kid.
Whatever they saying he did that shit.
Let me tell you something. Anytime these politicians start with maybe I did, maybe when I was a kid, there's no maybes on using 3 fingers to scoop pudding. There's only nasty. That's the only thing there. There's no maybe. It's either yes or it's no. And if it's yes, it's nasty. And maybe equals yes in this situation, Raheem. I am fully reporting that. It's weird, man. It's weird. Speaking of weird, Raheem, did you see this story coming out of the Tennessee House of Representatives? So, in the wake of the Nashville school shooting,
it's an evil world we live in.
Protesters have been showing up to the Tennessee State House there in Nashville. They've been showing up. They've been making their voices heard in the need for gun reform. Because, in a time of increasing passion just around the need to protect American children while at school, the state of Tennessee's Republican supermajority in their House of Representatives, they stifled and just downright just shut down conversation around gun rights. So 3 Democratic Tennessee lawmakers joined the protest. They joined in the protest. So what happened was the protesters made it into the House chamber, where they managed to interrupt the session of the House of Representatives. And so Representative Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson have now been dubbed the Tennessee Three. The Tennessee Three is the moniker. So for joining the protests that interrupted the business of the House of Representatives, the vindictive Tennessee Republican Party decided to hold a vote to expel the Tennessee Three. They wanted to just get them right out of the paint. So in unsurprising news, only Negro representatives Justin Jones and Justin Pearson ended up being expelled. Gloria Johnson is white, and she was not expelled.
It's an evil world we live in.
Tennessee Republicans are using all sorts of elaborate rationalizations to explain the unexplainable, to defend the indefensible, to act as though this is not an example of the way racial bias works.
It's an evil world we live in.
But I don't want to spend too much time just analyzing idiocy and bigotry. I feel like it speaks for itself. But watching the aftermath of the literally state-sanctioned racism, I found a wonderful character, Raheem. I found a wonderful character in all of this horrific news. I want to share it with you. I want to share this amazing character I found. So it turns out Representative Justin Pearson is a performer. Representative Pearson is a young brother. He kind of looks like Eddie Griffin, an undercover brother. But all eyes were on Representative Pearson, and he put on a show for, all of the allies supporting him, Raheem. Can you give the people a bit of the stylings of Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson?
Yes, I tell you, it was a sad day on Saturday. All hope seemed to be lost. Representatives were thrown out of the State House. Democracy seemed to be at its end. Seemed like the NRA and gun lobbyists might win. But that was good news for us. I don't know how long this Saturday in the state of Tennessee might last. But we have good news, folks. We've got good news that Sunday always comes. Resurrection is a promise, and it is a prophecy. It's a prophecy that came out of the cotton fields. It's a prophecy that came out of the lynching tree. It's a prophecy that still lives in each and every one of us in order to make the state of Tennessee the place that it ought to be. And so I've still got hope, because I know we are still here and we will never quit.
This is an example of doing much, much more than is necessary. Because I understand that brother was looking for a moment, but I don't know why he had to rip off Dr. King. I do know that the 55th anniversary of Dr. King being assassinated in Tennessee was either the same day as this sermon or maybe the day before. But fam, if you don't keep that Boondocks Dr. King voice in your bathroom mirror.
But lo and behold, some 4 decades later, what have I found but a bunch of trifling, shiftless, good-for-nothing niggas? And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word.
You can't break that out at a time like this. But I do want to see the young brothers return to the State House, and I'm told they will be voted back in by their respective city councils, and I, for one, am in full support of that end. Rising Negro thespian Jonathan Majors. I feel like a lot of people say thespian, like as a portmanteau for a lesbian actor. Rosie O'Donnell again, Raheem. There you go. That's 2 this episode. One more and you got to do 10 push-ups. But no, seriously. So Jonathan Majors was recently arrested for reportedly assaulting his female companion. And, I got to admit, Raheem, my first thought upon hearing the news was, Not Jonathan Majors. No, not Jonathan Majors. But, the more I thought about it, I just didn't understand why I was so surprised. I did see Creed 3, and, we should probably talk about that in a bit, Raheem, but, I don't know anything about that brother. When I really think about it, I don't know where he's from. He seems to kind of have just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know much about his backstory. I don't even know how old dude is. Because he's new, but he got kind of an old face, like a Bill Russell face. No, but talking about Creed, the second act of Creed 3, just to, this is not a spoiler alert at all, but the second act of Creed 3 was essentially a Jonathan Majors ab reveal, Raheem. That's what it was. It was like the whole movie was kind of shot in like portrait mode. So, there was just a lot of close-ups and body scans and, Michael B. Jordan wiggling his thick mustache. And, I don't know, but don't get me wrong. It was a good movie, but it was an ab-centric movie, Raheem. I gotta keep it real. It was, I give it a 7 out of 10, but it was a lot of abdominal muscles poking Raheem in this particular movie. But anyway, so. Majors gets arrested, and the details are still sparse, but, Majors, he hired a POC woman lawyer. I mean, he's pulled out the full playbook here. Priya Chandri, I know she represented one of the Real Housewives in some sort of a case or something like that. So this is, it's one of the go-to people, I suppose. But anyway, so his attorney, Chandri, she makes it clear that, Majors denies the allegations. And in fact, according to her, Jonathan Majors was in fact the victim. So there's, whispers that the alleged victim is white, which raises antennas all across Black America. We all would like to believe he's being framed, not Jonathan Majors. So his Hollywood crisis management team has released text messages that they say or exonerate Majors, and his attorney's framing the text as Jane Doe recanting her story. So I looked at the text, Raheem, and I got to be honest. They're inconclusive, to say the least. In fact, whoever is texting, there's no phone number or date on the messages. Whoever's doing the texting seems to have acknowledged that there was a confrontation of some sort, and also acknowledges injuries. I do not know how these are supposed to exonerate Majors, Raheem. I just am not getting that. That's not what it's giving, as they say on online. But this is probably why the story's been so quiet since it first broke back on on March 25th. Hollywood has magically gone quiet on what seems like a major story, pun intended. But Raheem, I'm not here to say what did or didn't happen. The man has a court date on May 8th, so we will see what happens next. But Raheem, in researching the story, I came across an article in Vox. As you know, I be reading. It's an article in Vox written by a white woman named Asia Romero, and in that article there was a particular paragraph that I found both striking and instructive. It reads, the charges came as a deep shock to fans of Majors, whose public persona during his rapid rise through Hollywood has purveyed a soft-spoken, sensitive masculinity. And as soon as I read that, I say, oh, that's what it is. And even I fell for it. Soft-spoken, sensitive masculinity, huh? Someone wants all of us to believe that, and they made sure to put him on the cover of Ebony, of all places, on the cover of Ebony, and some hot girl summer boots, some City Girl boots, some Carisha Please boots, and then I thought about the high-waisted pants he wore on Lovecraft Country, and it was at that moment I began to understand the success of Creed 3. The puzzle became clear, because I'm old enough to remember, Raheem, when the conventional wisdom in Hollywood was, two black leads cannot open a movie, and especially not internationally. But Creed Trey opened to 58 million in America, in North America, and 41 million internationally. It was in fact the largest domestic opening ever for a sports movie. So congratulations to Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors. Michael B. starring and directing in such a a blockbuster movie. But I don't know, Raheem, something about that phrase soft-spoken, sensitive masculinity, when we're talking about, why is this movie so popular? It was a good movie, like I said, it was a 7 out of 10 and all, but why is this the one, that opened with the biggest sports movie debut domestically ever? Why is this the one? And I don't know. I'm still focused on the soft-spoken, sensitive masculinity, and that makes me confident enough to say the following. I now believe the success of Creed 3 was due to the fact it was starring a black man with soft-spoken, sensitive masculinity and a corny black man.
The director and the star of Creed 3. And, we know each other. We go way back all the way to Chad Science in Newark, okay?
The corny kid, right?
No, I did not say that. Misquoted for sure. No, you did not hear me say I said we used to make fun of the name. But yeah, he is obviously killing things out here.
And Raheem, speaking of corny, before we leave this topic, I do have a new top 5 list for you, man. I got a new top 5, Raheem, so go ahead. I'm going to filibuster for a moment to give you time to just kind of grab a pen and paper, because as you know, this is very important. So here we go. These are the top 5 things that make a black man corny. So I even have one on the outside looking in. This was the first cut, and that is thinking Nikola Jokic is NBA MVP. That's corny, Raheem. Kendrick Perkins tried to tell y'all that was corny.
When it comes down to guys winning MVP since 1990, it's only 3 guys that won the MVP that wasn't top 10 in scoring. Do you know who those 3 guys were?
Who were they?
Steve Nash, Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki. No.
Dirk Nowitzki.
What do those guys have in common? I'll let it sit there and marinate. You think about it.
Stephen A. Molly. Stephen A. Molly. That's corny, Molly. But let's get into the actual top 5, Raheem. So here we go. Number 5 on the list of things that make a black man corny: having a bad haircut. So this is truly a real indicator of corniness. I see, in Texas, especially in San Antonio, you see a lot of dudes walking around with a bullshit high and tight. And I'm telling you, man, the improper blend on the fade is definitely the number 5 indicator of corniness among black men. The way you could to even be able to walk around like that and feel confident is amazing. Number 4, Raheem, on the top 5 list of things that make a black man corny: having no criminal record. And not necessarily even jail time, just even having no run-ins with the police that have caused them to keep a report is corny. If you a black dude and you got that situation, people gonna consider you corny, Raheem. I think that goes without saying. Now, number 3 on the top 5 things that make a black man corny: no tattoos. You're not gonna dress up the melanin a little bit? I mean, come on, brother. What are you doing? No tattoos, you probably corny. Now, number 2, we're getting into the top 2, Raheem. Here we go. Top 5 things that make a black man corny. This is number 2. Dating white women. And particularly, this is exclusively, if you are exclusively dating white women, people, I mean, look, man, people gonna definitely feel like you corny. What is this exclusivity? Why you just can't find nothing at home? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? I mean, you might have a dalliance, but really, exclusively, that's corny, Raheem. But number one, here we go. Number one, top 5 things that make a black man corny. Agreeing with white people. So these are people who, ride around with a Blue Lives Matter sticker and are black. You know what I mean? People who say all lives matter. You know what I mean? The folks who find something, maybe the Jason Whitlocks of the world. Matter of fact, Raheem, on the way out, man, could we, I got a little clip of Jason Whitlock here responding to Donald Trump's, even just the idea. This is a clip of Jason Whitlock on Tucker Carlson. This is going to play us out. Speaking of corniness, Jason Whitlock went on Tucker Carlson after the report came out saying Trump would be indicted. And here's what he had to say.
Tucker, I don't say this with pride. I really don't. I'm just being factual. I've never voted. And so I'm not saying that with pride. I'm hardcore MAGA tonight. I will be voting. I am hardcore MAGA. I've never voted. I did, I observed Trump. I'm somewhat supportive of Trump, but they have made me MAGA.
Raheem, I don't know if do you have a TikTok, man? You got a TikTok, Raheem? We have a TikTok, and it pod is our TikTok. But right now, I'm not even sure if we really going to even get a chance to get that one up and running, because there is a major effort in this country right now to ban TikTok. They want to ban the talk, Raheem. They do. They want to ban TikTok in this country, and this is a part of a larger push to just kind of bring some sort of order and formal regulations to social media. So TikTok specifically has its own issues, and we'll get into those in a minute. But look, man, the 2020s are going to be the decade where there will be some sort of order brought to the Wild West that is the internet. We've all known that there had to be at some point, the government was going to get involved in this thing that's become so predominant in our lives, right? We've all known that, and this is the decade where it's going to happen. You're seeing, you never see Democrats and Republicans. You never, at this point in politics, see bipartisan support for anything. But big tech and social media companies have a lot of explaining to do, and Congress is big on that. Look, Joe Biden even mentioned it in his State of the Union.
We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing, running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online, ban targeted advertising to children, and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us.
So there's a major push in this country, Raheem, and so much so, I'm telling you, it's a bipartisan push. So Joe Biden, the standard bearer for the Democrats, you heard what he just said, but Spencer Cox, who is governor of the state of Utah, signed into law a bill last week saying that those under the 18 in the state of Utah need parental consent to use social media after 10:30 p.m. After 10:30, you need parental consent all the way up until 6:30 in the morning. This is a new frontier we're crossing, Raheem. I don't know if you're comfortable with this. I don't know how I feel about this. It seems like the government is overreaching a little bit, but we knew there was going to be some regulations coming down the pike. So here's Spencer Cox on Meet the Press with Chuck Todd this week, and here's him kind of explaining what they did in the state of Utah.
And enforcement seems also to be a huge task here. Which department in the state is going to be monitoring these social media companies? And are you going to have to essentially hire more people to do this?
So the Department of Commerce will be handling this, and we understand that there are definitely going to be enforcement issues. Anytime you wade into this type of an industry, it's going to be tough, and we don't expect that we're going to be able to prevent every young person from getting around this. Kids are really smart. That's one of the problems.
See, Raheem, this is where it starts to get weird, Raheem. It starts to get weird. Now, me, Shadwick, I ain't got no kids as of right now. As of this recording, I ain't got no kids, but for all y'all that do, these people gonna raise y'all kids for you. They gonna try to raise you. This man talking about kids are smart, and that's the problem. The problem is that they're smart in regard to enforcement. They gonna have to make y'all sign up for something. And he goes on to say later on in this interview that, well, it doesn't go into effect. The law doesn't go into effect for another year. So over the course of the next year, they're gonna be having hearings and trying to figure out exactly how to enforce this. How do you do you have to register in some way? And so critics are already complaining that this is going to take away anonymity on the internet. At some point, in order for this to happen, a parent is going to have to register with someone in order to give permission. I mean, how could they not? How could they not? So now the government you're gonna have to register a government username essentially, or something like that, right? I mean, that's the only reasonable solution, and that is starting to get invasive. Well, actually, forget starting to, that's invasive. It just is, Raheem. It just is. And that's where we are in 2023. But, unless Congress decides to do something, unless the federal government decides to do something, this is going to get a lot like marijuana. It's going to get a lot like weed, where depending on what state you're in, there's different rules and different things that you have to do and different legalities that you need to know. And this is going to be for that thing, that is in our pockets that we're so connected to. All of a sudden, the government's going to be involved in that. That is scary, Raheem. That is just downright scary. But that's where we are. These people going to start raising y'all kids for you. But the TikTok thing is that it's about the kids. It is, but it's a little deeper. So TikTok is a Chinese company. TikTok's parent company. TikTok is, what they call themselves here in the United States. But the parent company is a company called ByteDance. And ByteDance is at least partially owned by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And American politicians they've almost reached consensus that this presents a major national security risk. And I gotta say that I can't help but agree. I can't see how it wouldn't create a national security risk. So we don't know the degree to which the Chinese government controls TikTok. We don't know that. We have no way of knowing that. But we do know that they do retain an ownership stake. Now, Shao Chu, I'm not sure what the pronunciation is, but he is the CEO of TikTok, and he was recently dragged in front of a congressional committee, and let's just say that the members of that committee already had their mind made up. The tape, please, Raheem.
Street Journal reported that the CCP is opposed to a forced sale of TikTok by ByteDance, quoting a CCP spokesman as saying the Chinese government would make a decision regarding any sale of TikTok. So the CCP believes they have the final say over your company. I have zero confidence in your assertion that ByteDance and TikTok are not beholden to the CCP. Next question.
Wait. Hold on, Raheem. I got to jump in there. Where was the question? She said, next question. She just read a statement and accused that man of something and said, next question. Man, this is, okay, well, I'm sorry. Let's keep going. What else did she have to say?
Heating content is a way of promoting and moderating content. In your current or previous positions within Chinese companies, have employees engaged in heating content for users outside of China? Very quickly, yes or no?
Our heating process is approved by our local teams in the various countries.
The answer is yes, thank you. Have any moderation tools been used to remove content on TikTok associated with the Uyghur genocide? Yes or no?
We do not remove that kind of content. TikTok is a place of freedom of expression and just like I said, if you use our app, you can go on it and you will see a lot of users around the world expressing content on that topic and many others.
Thank you.
So it was a tough room for Mr. Chu, and it's more of the same. If you watch any of the other Congress people, talk to him. It's much more of a grilling, much more of an inquisition than anything else. They're trying to have a moment, trying to catch him in some sort of a lie. He was reminded often that that it is illegal to lie to Congress or mislead Congress. So look, man, no one is, or at least none of our elected officials are buying the idea that China somehow is hands off of TikTok.
It's an evil world we live in.
I gotta admit, I don't agree. I can't see how they would be, because why would they be? So this is a country that we know as recently as last month or the month before this year was flying little white balloons over this country for some reason, and we had to shoot it down with missiles over and over. And I don't know how long they've been doing that, but the idea that any country that has the ability to gain information on a rival would not do that is absurd. And so the only answer that I can see, the only answer to this TikTok thing, it's gonna come down to, man, I hate to say that I'm in favor of the government banning, something that allows us to communicate with one another. For some reason, I'm just diametrically opposed to that, except for the fact that I just don't trust the Chinese government. I don't trust a foreign government. I don't trust this government. So of course I don't trust the Chinese government to do the right thing. No. So the only answer I can see is that TikTok has to be sold to an American company. It's the only answer. It has to be sold to an American company. And even that would still, then we still have the larger fight about social media and data rights and protecting kids in this country. But selling TikTok to another company at least takes the Chinese Communist Party out of the equation. The problem is, would the CCP allow that? And that's the problem. And you know it. So, Raheem, one of the benefits of doing a show of this nature as infrequently as we do it is, in the age of ultra-fast information, news cycles have an opportunity to play themselves out several times over before I've had a chance to really speak to the people about them. So I, much like I can assume anyone else, go through a range of emotions with these, with these little talking points, these little topics du jour, so to speak, right? And Ja Morant, Raheem, I don't know what to think about this dude. So Ja Morant, Memphis Grizzlies star guard Ja Morant, Nike signature shoe having Ja Morant. He's the one who essentially took over the Kyrie line after the Link Gate, Amazon Link Gate. Ja Morant he's the guy. Listen, man, a lot of people are saying that as far as American-born basketball stars, this is the guy who is widely considered the best, or at least the most marketable under 25 NBA star that we have. And that's important because look, in a time where when you think about who the best NBA players are, you think about Nikola Jokic, you think about Giannis Antetokounmpo, you think about Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid. Who's going to pick up that mantle for USA basketball? So in the xenophobic world of marketing, these things really matter. And Ja Morant has been put in that position. Listen, man, he gets compared to Allen Iverson. So he is a quick guard. He plays an exciting style, but really, it's that counterculture thing that he represents, right? Like AI, it was such a big deal that AI had braids and tats. The fact that you remember they airbrushed AI's tats, Allen Iverson's tats off of the cover of Slam magazine. Like these are real things that happen. Allen Iverson he's the reason they made the dress code. You know what I'm saying? To borrow a phrase, this is real. So Ja Morant is not the cultural force that Allen Iverson was, but the kids love him. He dances. He does the gritty. So a $200 million contract. This is the guy, but it seems that his antics all of a sudden ain't cute no more. Because I was under the impression, Raheem, that Ja Morant and his, for lack of a better term, counterculture presentation was something that everybody encouraged and thought was cute because it's never been hidden. Look, man, last year, I remember I'm on Twitter last year, and it's like, Ja Morant's threatening to shoot people on Twitter. He's threatening to shoot people on Twitter. He hopped under some comments and he's like, well, and I'm quoting here, he hops under some comments and he starts telling some randos, well, it's free to see how hollows feel. It's free to see how hollows feel. He's threatening to shoot people, and the only coverage it gets is from Outkick the Coverage or Deadspin or Barstool or some, or Butt Crack Sports or whatever it is, right? Like it seems like it's this sort of this whispered thing that everyone knows, but it only really gets talked about on the internet, right? Because the deals keep rolling. Kyrie gets in trouble, as I mentioned, and so Ja gets the shoe, right? As if this guy's some sort of as if his reputation or that he's something that people can build around from a marketing standpoint. So it seems that after a feud with a television star, with LeBron James propagandist Shannon Sharpe, and to be fair, Shannon is a former pro tight end, NFL tight end. So calling him a television star, I don't mean to be reductive in that, but at this point, this is what he did. You remember Shannon Sharpe brought the wrestling aspect of sports media to a Lakers-Grizzlies game where all of a sudden he's a part of the entertainment. He's willing to fight the entire Memphis Grizzly team over, I guess, over his takes. He's there to back up. I stand, skill, I stand on my takes, skill. I stand on my takes. He's willing to do that in public. And so, not unlike Hannibal Buress and Bill Cosby, Shannon Sharpe was an accelerant to the Ja Morant decline. It's been some strange stuff to watch, and I haven't seen too many people talking about it. Because, look, Shannon Sharpe, without question, shone a light on Ja Morant and sort of, more than shedding light, he was out and out taunting a 23-year-old, pro athlete. So these are, testosterone soaked, during your most testosterone soaked years where you're down to die about proving your manhood. A grown man of, I suppose, he got to be at least 50 years old, is taunting him. Raheem, do we have any clips of Shannon Sharpe taunting Ja Morant?
I wish Ja would realize that he's not a thug. Ja is a really good basketball player. Ja did everything he could to lift himself and his family out of this type of environment and to get away from this. And for some reason, he wants to surround himself with these type of people. Why? Bruh, you not hard. That's not your life. People that in that life would give anything to be in your life.
Great point.
For some reason, you're worth 30. You got a $200 million contract, and you want people in the NBA to think you hood, to think you gangster, because you roll with these type of people. Bro, you putting yourself in harm's way when you don't have to. Nobody looks at you, John, and think, man, that's a thug. He hood. He down. He bought that. You not. Stop pretending. All you do is yap and talk about, I'm going to let him live to see another day. I'm going to do this. You're not going to do nothing. And you know.
So, Raheem, on its surface, this sounds like free game from an OG. It sounds like Shannon Sharpe might be giving Ja Morant exactly what he needs, which is a dose of the truth, maybe a dose of tough love. Maybe T. Morant can't get through to Ja the way that, Shannon, as a former pro athlete and fellow rich dude, can get through to Ja. But all I hear is taunting, telling him what he's not and what he's not going to do. So after this, right, we start to get more stories. We get more stories. The Washington Post has 2 stories about Ja Morant, one being, there was a basketball game at Ja Morant's house where he ended up having words with a 17-year-old, and after maybe some pushing, shoving, and throwing a ball, Ja Morant goes into the house, according to the Washington Post, and allegedly returns to show a gun to the 17-year-old. He flashed the tool at a 17-year-old, or so it is alleged. And then there's another story, a twin story, saying, well, Ja Morant's mother was at a finish line being accosted or potentially having some sort of an issue with someone at the finish line. So she called Ja Morant. Apparently, Ja Morant, in the style of almost like fireman, slid down the pole in his home and was ready to spring into action. He brought the guns to the mall, and he squashed the trouble. But he also apparently threatened some mall security workers with bullets and being shot. So there's been a lot of talk after the Shannon Sharpe incident about Ja Morant's behavior, the same behavior that he wasn't hiding last year when he was threatening people on Twitter. But Shannon Sharpe says nobody looks at Ja and sees a thug. Who don't see a thug when they look at Ja? See, like, this is that stuff where, you know, I know there's been so much talk about, well, you know, black hairstyles can't be, you know, demonized and all that stuff. And I'm not demonizing that man's hairstyle, but he do got some, you know, some little dirty dreads and, you know, and platinum teeth, and he talks about shooting people. I don't see how y'all didn't think he was thugging. But Shannon Sharpe taunted him, and so after that, people started looking into it, and yeah, it turns out Ja Morant, I don't know who Ja is, quote unquote, according to Shannon Sharpe. That ain't you, Ja, but trouble followed him. So shortly after this, for reasons unknown to really anyone, Ja Morant is in Denver, Colorado, after games. The Memphis Grizzlies had back-to-back games in the same city, in Denver, Colorado, and so Ja Morant apparently spent 2 of those nights in a place called Shotgun Willie's. Shotgun Willie's is a strip club in Denver, Colorado, and Ja Morant went on what the New York Post describes as a 2-night, quote-unquote, bender. A 2-night bender where he might have spent as much as $50,000. He was throwing money that reports are it had to be raked up. They had to rake the money. So Ja's generous, but while at the strip club, he gets on Instagram Live and he shows, once again, he flashes a gun. He flashes a baby 380. A little pow-pow. Ja flashed a little pow-pow, and he held it with 2 fingers, almost like it was just a little toy, but it was a real gun. And so people were, obviously, I was sitting there like, man, like, what's up with this dude? He knows that he's hot right now. Why is he doing this? Why is he furthering the narrative about himself? And my only thought is probably because he ain't never got in trouble for it before. It's only been rewarded at every turn before. He was doing this before the Nike deal. People don't do what they're disincentivized to do typically, especially when, you know, you're talking about, you know, they're incentivized by contracts and all NBA teams and various things, man. So after he flashes the gun, it becomes crisis mode. Crisis mode, so much so that Ja Morant has to take time away from the team to address his mental health, anxiety and stress and all of the pressures of being a modern NBA star. So Ja Morant went to Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida, went to something like, I suppose, a rich person's version of Scared Straight. I'm not sure if he was taken on a tour of a local prison or possibly yelled at by a figure in the style of Tookie Williams. But Ja Morant went to thug rehab for a couple of days, and this is the part of the story where I start getting offended. I start finding things to take offense to. You know it's coming, because once y'all start forcing black people to do things, I usually can see the jokes. And this time, so I get, okay, let's start here. What rehab did he go to? What did they do? So Ja Morant is back. So listen, man, they gave him time served, an 8-game suspension with time served, which already lets you know kind of just even that idea as a concept lets you know sort of where this is going. But so Ja Morant will be back. He missed 6 games already, but due to time served, he'll be back on this coming Monday. But so Ja gave Jalen Rose his welcome back from rehab interview. Let's play a little bit of it, Raheem, because I gotta admit, I'm troubled.
In particular, if you don't mind getting into detail, like what were you doing these last 10 days and what did it teach you about yourself?
Just learning, I can open up. I can, express my feelings, and that it's, okay to be able to express your feelings. So, I was constantly, talking to therapists. I've been doing, Reiki treatment. I've been doing anxiety breathing, different stuff to, help me manage that and, release, all that stuff from my body.
So, Raheem, it starts to get nasty here for me, and here's why. The implication now is that something is just fundamentally wrong with Ja Morant as a person or as a human, right? Something is wrong with this guy. He's undergoing Reiki treatment, which is this, Japanese form of, like kind of alternative medicine. It's a way to, it's for healing, right? It's energy for healing your physical and your emotional self. And he has to get all these things out of his body because he showed a gun or because he was at a strip club spending a lot of money, or what is he doing exactly that is requiring this seemingly specialized form of rehab that heals gangster tendencies? I've never heard of this sort of thing before. Show me another time. Who else goes to this rehab center? Do they have similar symptoms to Ja Morant? Is there what? I don't understand this at all, Raheem. Do we have any more Ja Morant sound from his comeback interview?
You were holding a gun, and we both know how dangerous that can be. Whose gun were you holding?
Well, the gun wasn't mine. It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence, but I take full responsibility for my actions. Made a bad mistake, and I can see the image that I painted over myself with my recent mistakes. But in the future, I'm gonna show everybody who Ja really is, what I'm about, and change this narrative that everybody got painted over me.
Raheem, where is the NRA? Where is the National Rifle Association to advocate for Ja Morant's two-way rights? Why is Ja Morant not at a responsible gun-owning course? Why is it that when this man is seen with the gun, it's looked at as a crisis? We live in America. We live in a place where guns are the norm. We live in a place where guns are expected. And we live in a place where guns are, I hate to say it, constitutionally protected. But the rights of this young black athlete, apparently he shouldn't have a weapon because of what? I'm not sure why he should not have a weapon the more I think about it. Now, if you want to say, well, he's in a strip club drunk, then yeah, he should go to a responsible gun owning course. But it has to become about a problem with him and things that he needs Japanese treatment to overcome because he's got to get some bad stuff out of his body. What is he getting out of his body? It's so coded, and they teach these dudes to speak coded because guess what? The money depends on it. This is about the money. This is about saying what you have to say to move on.
What a money resign, what a money resign, what a money resign, what a money resign.
So Ja Morant is doing what he needs to do to keep the money, to keep the bag, as they say. He's doing what he has. He's doing what the money wants him to do. He's saying what needs to be said in order to stay in proximity to the money. That's all this comes down to. So, but when we start talking about who Ja is and Ja's gonna show you and all these sort of personal, intrinsic aspects to this situation, starts getting nasty because it starts to play on trope after trope. There's something wrong with Ja Morant. You cannot be a responsible gun owner as a black person in this country. Well, and if you can't have endorsements. It's not something that is marketable. And you know it. Oh man, Raheem, episode 11. Episode 11 is now officially in the books. We did it one more time. I want to remind everyone of all the many ways you can watch this show at this point. You can't catch us on YouTube, youtube.com/andyouknowitpod if you want to get to see me in all my splendor. Of course, on TikTok @andyouknowitpod, on Instagram @andyouknowitpod. Email the show, AYKIpod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And ladies and gentlemen, one more time, we will be back as soon as possible. We've got a lot to do, a lot of production, a lot more great things coming down the pipe for you. Oh, and hey, remember, one more thing. Your life is perfect. If the bad were better, the good be worse. Remember, SCW tell you that. I'ma holla at you. One.
And you know it. And you know it. And you know it. Yeah. And you know it. One thing. And you know it when you hear it. I know niggas that'll air it. Running the ferris on me, I give them clearance, homie. I was embarrassed, homie, to have two parents home with me. Hey, but they installed that wherewithal, I wear it all with me. Just a young nigga from a good home at a bad school. On cracking day, we beat him up in the bathroom. My feet is up in the classroom. I got a good rep, take good tests, and get bad grades. Had bad braids on mini pro for a minute though. I was really all in it, broke. Good Lord, have I paid both in money and in space? Cause I wasted my time trying to figure out why. You could take a lesson from mom, make sure you don't forget to try. Make sure you don't forget to try, nigga. Yeah. Make sure you don't forget to try.